mind, body, and spirit. She wants to help you improve the quality of your life. Kelly, we got special guests with us today.
Yes, today we have the brothers, Kainon Jasper and Dr. Kendell Jasper today. We're talking about mental illness way. You know, a lot of people have heard, oh, he's crazy, or maybe personally, I feel funny inside. Something's not feeling right. You know, there's no poster child for what mental illness looks like. It affects across the board, women, men, black, white, Asians, everyone. And a lot of people are scared to go to the doctor. When you hear someone saying go to a therapist, they're scared. They're afraid because people are afraid of being called crazy.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday, which was so appropriate, People.com did an article with about 20 celebrities like Demi Lovato, who is diagnosed with a bipolar disorder. Our upcoming guest, Catherine Zeta-Jones, she's bipolar. Gabri Sidibe, and many more. And I thought today it was very important, as we just left the holidays, to talk about mental illness. And good morning, the Jasper brothers. How are you? So you all have the program called Off the Rails, and you also have facilities talking about mental illness. Why this subject?
Well,
I'll let you go.
Well, who's that? Say your name too.
my name is Kainon.
Okay.
Kainon Jasper. Why this topic?
Yeah.
Probably because it's something that we avoid so much, and probably the most important thing that we have to address. You just can't avoid it no more. You know what I mean?
Do you all have a personal experience? Because I know, Kendell, you're a doctor. You're a clinical psychologist. What is that? What is a clinical psychologist?
I have a PhD in clinical psychology. I'm a little different than a psychiatrist. So to put it plainly, psychiatrists are medical doctors that mainly prescribe medication. I'm more of the talk to, identify what your intellectual ability is, really get at the core of mentally what may be going on with you. So that's really the distinction.
And that includes like you talked about some Catherine Zeta-Jones being bipolar or depression or
bipolar, schizophrenia, ADHD, you name it, autism. We run the whole gamut, to be honest with you.
Okay, Kelly, you brought up an interesting point. Often, like in our families, we have family members. We talked about this off the mic, that sometimes move to the beat of a different drum. They sometimes on a different frequency. A lot of times we're apathetic about that. We don't say anything. We don't do anything. We just accept it. But in many cases, is that what we're dealing with? Have you found?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's common.
Yeah.
Right? So mental sounds like a dirty word.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, my initial reaction, even my gut reaction, and I say the word often, that's a word people don't like. So let's make it about a health discussion. So if we're having just a health discussion, your mental health, your emotional health is part of that health discussion, period. And I think that maybe that takes some of the stigma off of it for everybody, because it's just not for black folks. Like, we have issues in our community,
Right.
Yeah.
but everybody has some form of a stigma attached to someone that they deem as mentally ill or having mental health issues.
A lot of people. What's the difference between mental health and mental illness?
Well, again, take the mental off of it, and let's just talk about being healthy or being ill,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So if you're ill, physically, you go to the doctor, he says you're ill in some way, shape, or form. You have something more often than not that's diagnosable that needs to be addressed. And if you don't engage in healthy practices, it will become worse, or it will turn into a full-blown illness. Mental health and mental illness are in that same vein, so to speak. If you're not engaging in healthy mental health practices, you will end up, worse. It will, a word, exacerbate the issues that you're currently having. We all experience depression. There he goes. Big bro on me already.
Big bro.
This morning. Sorry, too many syllables this morning.
I was going to ask, how is it having a clinical psychologist as your brother? Because everything you do, does he pick it apart? Like, you did this because of this.
Not allowed. Don't even worry about that. We don't get that
I'm
far.
OG in the house.
Okay, yeah.
Growing up,
yeah.
so it is what it is.
Don't get that far.
I respect it. I respect his mind. We've also always challenged each other intellectually growing up. I think that was something that our parents definitely encouraged. But it actually helped, because I could honestly say I'm not gonna say a victim, but I had some issues as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like violence. You know what I mean? We grew up in East New York, Brooklyn, and just some things that you see and absorb the whole time and sometimes participate in. If you practice something long enough, it becomes a habit, you know. And I didn't even realize like how I became addicted somewhat to violence. Like I actually liked engaging in it, you know what I mean? And I didn't even realize it. So it took my loved ones, people around me, to be like, "Yo, dude, you gotta chill." And I was still functioning. And as far as life, work, things is popping off around me. Looks like a good time, but it was times where I would like go 0 to 100 real quick, no pun.
How hard was it for them to convince? Because I think a lot of us, you guys grew up in East New York. You're from Flint, from Oakland. I remember doing work with people who were coming back from Afghanistan and talking to them, and they were suffering from either TBI, traumatic brain injury, or post-PTSD. So were you suffering from PTSD?
Most definitely.
Living in East New York.
Like if dead body every other week. Our brother, he was really our cousin, but he was raised as our brother. He was murdered. I was 20. He was 22. I was 20. He was about 15 at the time, 16. And these are things that they're growing inside of you. You're getting angrier and angrier, and you start figuring out ways to deal with it. You know what I mean? And it affects everybody. So imagine what's going on in Oakland, what's going on in Flint, what's going on in Chicago right now, Philly. Look at all of those deaths. That's affecting the whole entire community.
I see what you mean.
So, we got to get to it.
Not to cut them off, but there are opposite ends. Like if the pendulum swings, right? So exposure to trauma and violence, you either become desensitized to it, or you have an oversensitivity to it. And neither end of that spectrum is very good for you, right? So I remember having this conversation with him saying, hey, I saw my first dead body when I was 8 years old, right? On my way to the movies. And we stepped.
We actually saw the murder.
We stepped over the body on the bus to go see the movie Brewster's Million, and didn't think anything of it. Like I'm 8, I remember it like it was yesterday, but I wasn't an emotional wreck beyond that. It just was the norm of growing up, where we grew up, and crack in the 80s, and it was just a different time. But it reveals itself in different ways.
Yeah.
When you should have an emotional response and be more sensitive than you are to what's going on around you, you kind of have this blank slate, like, I seen it worse. Like it could always
you get numb to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
so now think about social media and how we are inundated with violence, fights, all kinds of things that people are seeing as soon as they open up their phone.
And misinformation. I always say, look, Instagram don't have a dislike button. Yeah. If it did, a lot of people wouldn't be doing as much as they did. So almost everything you do has some degree of an approval rating. But it's not like that. It's like I can't say I gotta actually make a comment, and then that becomes a thing. You know what I mean? So we got to be real careful with the velocity that digital can accelerate things.
Yeah, digital's the devil. All right. All right, so let's give out your social media. I'm going to open up the phone lines to people who can relate to these stories. We already got the lines filling up right now. What's your social media?
It's at Doc and the Dude, and that's at DOCNDADUDE.
Okay, Doc and the Dude.
Yeah. Doc
and the Dude. All right, cool. Okay, hit them up, man. Follow them because they could give you information even beyond this radio show if you want to continue the conversation. But we're going to take your calls. You can speak to them directly, 888-742-3345.
Yeah.
All right, we got the Doc at Doc and the Dude, man. We got Kainon Jasper is here. Yep. His brother, Dr. Kendell Jasper, they're both here, and they're talking about an issue. You might have to come back because we can't do this in one segment. We're talking about being ill.
Mental illness. And, in addition to the other conditions that you were speaking about, anxiety and depression, I feel like sometimes that's a condition that sometimes people don't really realize what that is. I feel jumpy, but it's really a big thing. Adding with social media, that strikes a lot of anxiety. Seeing what's somebody going to say about you. Did they like my picture?
Right.
What's your experience? Because you all have your platform. You have Off the Rails and ARJ Cares. Do you have a lot of cases of that?
All day. All day, every day.
What do you tell them?
Well,
like, how do you treat that?
okay, so let's normalize it.
Okay.
So we all experience depression and anxiety. I don't
Yes.
care who you are, right? And if you tell me that you don't, I'm gonna tell you knock it off. You're not telling me the truth.
Yeah.
Right. Now it may not be to the point that it becomes diagnosable or something that needs to be managed through treatment. Well, let me take that back, because even if you aren't experiencing diagnosable mental illness, I think it's important for all of us to go see and talk to somebody. Right. And that's not it's not based on the premise that I'm ill. Just we can all benefit from processing things and bouncing things off of people who are going to be objective. But I tell people to engage in mental health practices. Your brain is a muscle. Use it. You have to practice skills to be able to ward off or manage the things that are presented to you on a daily basis. Because I can guarantee you, throughout the course of a day, you're going to hear something that's going to make you give you an emotional response, or you're going to create an emotional response, or it's going to create some level of anxiety. And that leads to sort of this underlying stress issue that people aren't aware of, and your body starts breaking down. You don't have the same level of energy. You don't have the same level of motivation.
Yeah.
You feel like there are tremendous obstacles sometimes that you create on your own that lend itself to your lack of success. And you're trying to figure out, where did this come from? Like, where did this all start? I kind of have been feeling a little bit off, but you know what? I'm a G. I'm going to just deal with it.
Yeah.
Like,
That's why understanding how to take that first step is important. Because that first step, like you said, like, who got you to do it? It was just somebody who wasn't afraid of me. So if you got a friend out there and you really love your friend, you got to help encourage your friend, even go with him. And the first therapist you see probably won't be the one that works for you.
That's interesting you say that, right? Because just because they're a therapist doesn't mean that person has been for. Oh, okay.
gotta date them.
When I was finishing, I tell you this story. When I was finishing school and I was going to take my license exam, right? And somebody might ream me for this. So my supervisor, director at the time, he said, I want you to go in that room and I want you to look around at all of the people in there that are taking that exam. And when you come back, tell me who you would go see. So I walk in the room and I'm like, yo, like, I don't know if they just have crammed for this test, but I wouldn't go see nobody in here. Like, these folks look a little different.
Yeah.
And when I came back, he said, that's the point. He said, you have to normalize things for people to make them feel comfortable. He said, it's very much about your presentation, about how comfortable you make people feel, and not being an oddity. If you want to be an oddity, you do that on your own personal time. But you're at work, and you're here to help people. So, you're going back to what he said. If you have someone around you that you feel comfortable enough around that you can keep it a buck with and say, listen, I need help. And I'm going to give it to you raw and uncut. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell it to you straight up, no sugarcoating. Those are the people you need to keep around you.
Okay, I want to do this. I want to go to the phone lines. We got Jeanette on the line from Iowa. I'm going to take as many calls as I can. So quick questions, quick answers if you can. And if you want to reach these guys directly, give out your social media again.
It's at Doc and the Dude, at DOCNADUDE.
Okay, go ahead, Jeanette. You got a question?
That's it, right?
I do. It's funny that this conversation came up today. I just found out last night that my baby sister may be depressed. She was talking about harming herself. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't really know what to do or how to help her. So I was just wondering, as family members, what can we do to help struggling siblings with this?
The first thing I would say is listen and not judge. Be able to listen. Don't form an opinion. ask that individual, how can I best support you in this circumstance, and work with them. The other part of it is you have to understand that as much as you may want to help, if people aren't ready to help themselves, there's not a lot that you can do in those circumstances.
Mm-hmm. But can you kind of direct them to go seek help?
Absolutely. You can go with them.
Yeah.
You know, I always suggest that it's a scary moment. You know, that interaction is kind of scary. Nobody wants to go somewhere and somebody say, hey, there's something wrong with you. Your brain or you're broken. I recommend you go with them.
Also, what you got to consider is that if somebody is ill, the environment they come from might be ill. So you might be ill too and don't even know it.
Right.
You know? So you can send somebody for treatment and you send them back to the same sick environment.
Is that what's wrong with me?
That's what's wrong with you.
That's what's wrong.
Yeah, that's why you can't fix yourself.
I can't
you just
fix
figured it out. Your brother helped you.
Oh, man.
All right. We got Furkan on the line from Toronto. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Hey, brother. I was listening on the radio in terms of violence. I was growing up in Chicago, and I had a brother and also a friend of mine that I seen got shot right in front of me, and I was like about 5, 6 years old. And seeing that vision overnight, I still see that vision when I go to sleep, and then there'll be times where I'll just get mad here and there for no reason. And it's like a little bit of anger that I kept, but I have friends of mine that tell me, like, I got to calm down, but it's hard. What message can you give, and even to others that may be going through this, what can we do to, get past it? Because it's a scary vision, and there are people that suffer from this, and it's hard, especially when someone's trying to control their anger.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about what happened with your brothers. I know exactly what that feels like. And I'm going to be honest with you, that feeling never goes away, because as much as you love your brothers, you'll never shake it. But in order to try to deal with it, you got to go to talk to someone to help you understand how your mind works. So when those feelings start to come up, you're aware of it and you know how to control it better. And then you know how to redirect the energy, right? So you don't think it's just going to go away, because it's going to come out in some way. And more than likely, it'll come out in a violent way because you're frustrated. The first thing that I would suggest to you is try to find someone that you can talk to, some sort of therapist in your area. You said you're in the Chi, so if you reach out to us, we can help you and direct you to someone out there, because we do understand exactly what you're going through right now.
That's great advice, Furkan. Are you on social media? Because you could follow them directly.
Yeah, I just follow them up on Instagram right now too, so I'll definitely keep in contact with that.
Or you know what? We'll have...
Yeah, hold the line, and we're going to get your number, and I'll connect you with it.
We'll call you.
And before we leave, I just wanted to say, for someone who's never gone to even a doctor, what would they be looking for the therapist? How do they go about finding that one person?
Well, I think that you find someone that you're comfortable with. If you want them to look like you, if you want them to be the same gender, you can ask those questions. You have to remember, you are the individual that is asking for service, and this is in part about customer service. I'm providing you, as a customer, as a patient, a service. So it's no different than you courting someone else in that respect, and that's beyond a therapist, a primary care doctor, a cardiologist, an oncologist. Like you can have them court you, and right. You feel comfortable because, and especially in this circumstance, you are going to get the most out of it. And I don't mean comfortable meaning they acquiesce to you. I mean comfortable from this is a safe space for me to be in. That doesn't mean that when you get in the room you're not going to get challenged, because I can tell you, like, I am not the typical doctor dude that's going to be like, that was great. I'm going to be like, nah, that was like, let me keep it 100 with you. That sounds crazy. Like, that was crazy shit you just said.
I like that.
Come on now.
Well, we thank you all, and we're going to have you come back, because this is a dialogue that we have to talk about all year long.
Definitely.
Yes. Thank you so much. And once again, your social media is Doc and the Dude, DOCNDADUDE.
Thank you for spelling it for me. I was having a little difficulty.
DOC, the letter N?
Yes, the letter N. Then
DOCNDADUDE. DADUDE.
Correct. And everyone, please follow me, Kelly
man.
Kincaid.
It's a word salad, brother.
I got y'all. I got y'all.
Oh,
Inda.
N-D-A.
Dude.
Dude. Oh,
Exactly.
okay, man. That was throwing me off.
Ebonics, man.
Man, I forgot, man. My bad.
And everyone follow me.
Follow Kelly at
Kelly Kincaid, KELLYKINKAID.
Kendall, thank you, man. You're an
Thank
asset
you.
to the
Thank
community.
both of you.
Kainon, same to
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
your
Thank you,
honesty,
everybody.
too, man.
Absolutely.
That means a lot. Thanks for sharing your story. I want to hear more about it, though, so
Sure.
definitely come back, okay?
For sure.
And, it's interesting because Catherine Zeta-Jones is next, and she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder as well. So, but, she's here to talk about a new movie that she's in, and just to have Catherine Zeta-Jones on the shows is, we've been having a big show every week, but this is pretty special. So I'm going to open up the phone lines. You want to talk with her, 888-742-3345.
It's Sway in the morning, only on Shea 45.